Jaya Shri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda, Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda, Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. So we are continuing with Caitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila. Chapter number 2, Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text number 6. Maybe Krishna Sharnam Prabhu can mute himself so we won't get an echo. Thank you. Verse number 6. Brahmatma Bhagavan Anuvadatina Anga Prabha Amsha Swarupatina Vidheya Chinha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Impersonal Brahman, the localized Paramatma, and the personality of Godhead are three subjects, and the glowing effulgence, the partial manifestation, and the original form are their three respective predicates. So you can see here, there's a repetition. Again, talking about three levels of realization: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Text 7. अनुवादागे पाचे विधेय स्थापना से अर्थ कही शुना शास्त्र विवरणा. Translation. A predicate always follows its subject. Now I shall explain the meaning of this verse according to the revealed scriptures. Text 8. Swayam Bhagavan Krishna Vishnu Paratattva Purna Jnana Purnananda Parama Mahatva. Translation. Krishna, the original form of the personality of Godhead, is the summum bonum of the all-pervading Vishnu. He is all perfect knowledge and all perfect bliss. He is the supreme transcendence. Text 9. Nanda Sutta Bali Yanre Bhagavate Gai Se Krishna Avatirna Chaitanya Goswami. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. He whom Srimad Bhagavatam describes as a son of Nanda Maharaj has descended to earth as Lord Chaitanya. Purport. According to the rules of rhetorical arrangement for efficient composition in literature, a subject should be mentioned before its predicate. The Vedic literature frequently mentions Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, and therefore these three terms are widely known as the subjects of transcendental understanding. But it is not widely known that what is approached as the impersonal Brahman is the effulgence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's transcendental body, nor is it widely known that the Supersoul or Paramatma is only a partial representation of Lord Chaitanya, who is identical with Bhagavan himself. Therefore, the descriptions of Brahman as the effulgence of Lord Chaitanya, the Paramatma as his partial representation, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna as identical with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must be verified by evidence from authoritative Vedic literatures. The author wants to establish first that the essence of the Vedas is the Vishnu Tattva, the absolute truth, Vishnu, the all-pervading Godhead. The Vishnu Tattva has different categories, of which the highest is Lord Krishna, the ultimate Vishnu Tattva, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita and throughout the Vedic literature. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the same Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is described as Nanda Sutta, the son of King Nanda. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, that Nanda Sutta has again appeared as Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he bases this statement on his understanding that the Vedic literature concludes there is no difference between Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This the author will prove. If it is thus proved that Sri Krishna is the origin of all tattvas or truths, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan, and that there is no difference between Sri Krishna and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it will not be difficult to understand that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also the same origin of all tattvas. The same absolute truth as he is revealed to students of different realizations is called Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So here again we can see repetition. In verse number 6 we saw that again Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is stressing the importance of three levels of realization: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. And in verse number 7, we saw the very important sentence which says, according to revealed scriptures, which means the authenticity of the data is being proved, that is coming down in strict bona fide disciplic succession, and it is coming from the revealed scriptures, the Vedas. And in verse number 8 we saw that Krishna is called the Samam Bonam, right? We've seen in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna also practically demonstrated that he is the source of everything. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And from him comes Vishnu, that he also showed Arjuna when he showed him the universal form. So there, from there also we can see that Vishnu also comes from Krishna. And again, the same point is being emphasized, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we don't accept Krishna as the Supreme Lord because we have blind faith. No, it is given in the scriptures, in the Shastras. Then in verse number 9, what did we see? We see that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is explaining to us that Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are the same. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. And then there was this sentence where it is mentioned that the subject is always mentioned before its predicate. Now, every complete, I was looking in Google, trying to understand what does this sentence mean. So it says that every complete sentence contains two parts, a subject and a predicate. Now the subject is what or whom the sentence is about, while the predicate tells something about the subject. So this is how we understand. And the scriptures, they mention, like again Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is mentioning the three aspects, right? But Prabhupada mentions in the purport that not many people do not know that these three aspects, Brahman, Paramatma realization, are also of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he is non-different from Krishna. They don't know that they are the same. Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are the same. So it's important, he says, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, it's important to verify by evidence from the Vedas. Now, recently we concluded Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So even in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto, chapter 5 and verse 32, it says, Krishna Varna Tvisha Krishna, right? Sango Pangastra Parshadam Yagna Sankirtana Prayer Yadantihi Sumedhasaha. What is the translation that we learned in this canto? It says, excuse me, it says that in the age of Kali, intelligent persons, they perform congregational chanting. Why? Because to worship the incarnation of Godhead who constantly sings the name of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, He is Krishna himself. He's accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. So even in Srimad Bhagavatam, which was written 5,000 years ago, more than that, mention of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is already there in the 11th canto. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna, they are the same, identical. So, as Prabhupada, so we can understand from this that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he is establishing the essence of the Vedas. And he says the essence of the Vedas is the Vishnu Tattva. And Vishnu Tattva, as Prabhupada says, has different categories, right? But the highest category is Krishna himself. He is the ultimate Vishnu Tattva. And the more important point is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also is of the same origin of all the tattvas, because there is no difference between Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we can see that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is stating that Krishna has appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Vedas also confirm the same. Now, in let's see, this is what we learned from verse number 9. Let's do today's last verse, which is verse number 10. प्रकाशे विशेष तेन्हा धरति न नाम भ्रम परमात्मार स्वयं भगवान. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. In terms of his various manifestations, he is known in three features called the impersonal Brahma, the localized Paramatma, and the original personality of Godhead. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained the word Bhagavan in his Bhagavad Sandarbha. The personality of Godhead, being full of all conceivable and inconceivable potencies, is the absolute supreme whole. Impersonal Brahman is a partial manifestation of the absolute truth realized in the absence of such complete potencies. The first syllable of the word Bhagavan is Bha, which means sustainer and protector. The next letter Ga means leader, pusher, and creator. Va means dwelling, or all living beings dwell in the Supreme Lord, and the Supreme Lord dwells within the heart of every living being. Combining all these concepts, the word Bhagavan carries the import of inconceivable potency in knowledge, energy, strength, opulence, power, and influence, devoid of all varieties of inferiority. Without such inconceivable potencies, one cannot fully sustain or protect. Our modern civilization is sustained by scientific arrangements devised by many great scientific brains. We can just imagine, therefore, the gigantic brain whose arrangements sustain the gravity of the unlimited number of planets and satellites, and who creates the unlimited space in which they float. If one considers the intelligence needed to orbit man made satellites, one cannot be fooled into thinking that there is not a gigantic intelligence responsible for the arrangements of the various planetary systems. There is no reason to believe that all the gigantic planets float in space without the superior arrangement of a superior intelligence. This subject is clearly dealt with in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 13, where the personality of Godhead says, I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in orbit. Were the planets not held in the grip of the personality of Godhead, they would all scatter like dust in the air. Modern scientists can only impractically explain this inconceivable strength of the personality of Godhead. The potencies of the syllables bha, ga, and va apply in terms of many different meanings. Through his different potent agents, the Lord protects and sustains everything, but he himself personally protects and sustains only his devotees, just as a king personally sustains and protects his own children, while entrusting the protection and sustenance of the state of various administrative agents. The Lord is the leader of his devotees, as we learn from the Bhagavad Gita, which mentions that the personality of Godhead personally instructs his loving devotees how to make certain progress in the path of devotion and thus surely approach the kingdom of God. The Lord is also the recipient of all the adoration offered by his devotees, for whom he is the objective and the goal. For his devotees, the Lord creates a favorable condition for developing a sense of transcendental love of Godhead. Sometimes he does this by taking away a devotee's material attachments by force and baffling all his material protective agents. For thus, the devotee must completely depend on the Lord's protection. In this way, the Lord proves himself the leader of his devotees. The Lord is not directly attached to the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world, for he is eternally busy in the enjoyment of transcendental bliss with paraphernalia composed of his internal potencies. Yet, as the initiator of the marginal energy as well as the marginal potency or the living beings, he expands himself as the Purusha avatars who are invested with potencies similar to his. The Purusha avatars are also in the category of Bhagavad Tattva because each and every one of them is identical with the original form of the personality of Godhead. The living entities are his infinitesimal particles and are qualitatively one with him. They are sent into this material world for material enjoyment, to fulfill their desires, to be independent individuals, but still they are subject to the supreme will of the Lord. The Lord deputes himself in the state of supersoul to supervise the arrangements for such material enjoyment. The example of a temporary fair is quite appropriate in this connection. If the citizens of a state assemble in a fair to enjoy for a short period, the government deputes a special officer to supervise it. Such an officer is invested with all governmental power and therefore he is identical with the government. When the fair is over, there is no need for such an officer and he returns home. The Paramatma is compared to such an officer. The living beings are not all in all. They are undoubtedly parts of the Supreme Lord and are qualitatively one with Him, yet they are subject to His control. Thus, they are never equal to the Lord or one with Him. The Lord who associates with the living being is the Paramatma or Supreme Living Being. No one therefore should view the tiny living beings and Supreme Living Being to be on an equal level. The all pervading truth that exists eternally during the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the material world, and in which the living beings rest in trance, is called the impersonal Brahman. So, again, same point is being repeated. The three features, right? The three features of Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, if it's being repeated so many times, we can understand that it is important to understand these three features, right? Many do not take it very seriously even after hearing, right? They take it casually or dismiss it. But it is very important to understand. I remember reading a story by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his book that he has, written with different stories with moral, with a moral understanding. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur talked about, there was a boy who was flying a kite, but he was on the terrace of his, the building, and he was flying a kite, and he was so engrossed in flying the kite. In fact, I think yesterday or day before was Makar Sankranti when, they fly kites. So he was flying kite, and he was so engrossed that he didn't realize that he had reached towards the edge, and if he did not pay attention, he would fall off the building and lose his, life. So there was a wise person walking by and he noticed and he said, "Hey, excuse me, boy, please be careful. You will fall down. You are so close to the edge." He didn't care. He was so engrossed in flying the kite. He says, "Just shut up. I don't want to listen to you." So what could the wise man do? Nothing but just inform, and then there's nothing the wise man can do. But here, this boy, he heard that his life is in danger, and yet he took it very casually. So we have to be very careful when we are getting this knowledge from the scriptures. We should not be casual about it. We should not think, oh yeah, I heard it, and just dismiss it. No, we need to contemplate on it. We need to think about it, that what is it that we are learning from the scriptures? What are they talking? What is the process that we need to follow, so that we do not remain in that ignorant position like the boy who was flying the kite, but instead become wise, right? The purport is explaining the meaning of Bhagavan. Prabhupada explains that Bha means sustainer and protector, Ga means a leader, a pusher, or a creator, and Va means dwelling. So all living entities dwell in Krishna, and he dwells in all the living entities. Now, there is, of course, this itself, this description of the word Bhagavan itself shows that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He has inconceivable potency, right? He's full of six opulences. What did Parashar Muni say? Aishwarasya samagrasya virasya yashashriya. He's talking about six opulences that only a Bhagavan possesses. Another meaning given of Bhagavan is Bhaga means opulences, and Van means possessor of such opulences. So intelligent people, they understand from the scriptures, by hearing from bona fide authority, they understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the creator, of course, and he's also maintaining the creation, like Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that Krishna, even Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, as Prabhupada quoted in the purport, that Krishna says, I enter into each planet and they are moving by my will. So the planets are in orbit because of the mercy, the will of Krishna, right? So ignorant people may not understand that. They may think that, oh, the planets are just floating in the air. No, there is a superior intelligence behind it. There is a superior creator behind it, right? Like a small child, he sees a plane, flying in the air, and just because he cannot see the pilot because the plane is so high up in the air, the child will think, oh, the plane is flying on its own. No, there is a pilot in that plane that is flying that plane. So, with intelligence, with the help of knowledge, bona fide knowledge, we can understand that Krishna is the source of everything. He is maintaining, and everything is taking place because of Krishna's will. Now, in the purport also, Prabhupada gives a very nice analogy. He says that just like a king protects the citizens, right? But he takes extra care in protecting his own children, right? Similarly, Krishna also protects and sustains everything through his different agents, right? Just like the king has a lot of ministers or whoever are working under him, they are the ones who are responsible for taking care of the citizens. But the king personally takes care of his own children. So, similarly, Prabhupada explains that Krishna is protecting and sustaining everyone through his different agents, but he personally takes care of his devotees. And what does that taking care involve? Very interesting to know that he takes care of them by guiding them, instructing them, because he's situated in the heart as Paramatma. So he is from time to time, showing them the way how to go back to God, and how to go back to him. So, and of course, within he is as Paramatma, without he is a bona fide spiritual master, and he's guiding, giving instructions on the way path back to Godhead. And Prabhupada says that when a devotee becomes sincere, really sincere, then what happens? Then Krishna creates favorable conditions for that devotee to progress spiritually. Now, sometimes Prabhupada says those favorable conditions could be that Krishna takes away everything from that devotee. It could be family, it could be possessions, it could be money, it could be house, it could be anything. He takes it away. Right? He takes away everything so that the devotee becomes fully dependent upon Krishna. Like, let's take the example of Srila Prabhupada. We have heard him say in his lectures that Krishna took away everything from him, right? Took away his family, his business, everything, so that Srila Prabhupada could start on his journey to come to the US and spread Krishna consciousness. So basically, what happens is when devotees hear this, that Krishna takes away everything, they take a step back. They say, oh, no, no, no. We don't want Krishna to take away anything from us because we are so attached. We love everything that we have, the family, the job, the possessions, everything. So it is better I do little Krishna consciousness. Fully? No, because if I become sincere, then this is what is going to happen. Everything will be taken away from me. So, what is the fear? The fear is not of everything going away, but the fear is of losing control. We like to be controllers. We like to control everything. So, if everything is gone, then what do we control? There's nothing left to control. But unfortunately, we don't realize that we cannot be the controllers. We think we are controllers, but we are not the controllers. Krishna is the controller. So it's important to understand. Of course, I remember what Guru Maharaj said many years ago, but I don't remember what the question was. And Guru Maharaj said that one is never a loser by surrendering to Guru and Krishna. One is never a loser. And that was a very powerful statement that stuck onto my heart, that we must not think that there is anything more important than the instructions of Guru and Krishna. Nothing is important. So, continuing with the purport of this verse, number 10, Prabhupada also talks about the Purusha avatars, right? He says that these Purusha avatars, Krishna takes for the creation, maintenance, and destruction of this creation. So he does not personally, create, maintain, and destruct. He has these Purusha avatars to do that. And a very nice example also he gave. I'm trying to remember. Yes, so just like these Purusha avatars are there to create, maintain, and annihilate whenever it is necessary. Similarly, Prabhupada also is giving an analogy of the Paramatma that is in the heart. He says that the Paramatma in the heart is like an officer who is there in a fair. Now that officer has the same um, power as the government, because the government has sent that officer, to supervise. So similarly, the Paramatma also is supervising within our heart. And the moment we leave this body and go, he also leaves. Just like when the fair is over, the officer also goes away. So now that we know that Krishna is situated in the heart as Paramatma, we should understand that he is not only the witness of our activities, he is a witness of our desires, and he's also a sanctioner. Only by his will everything takes place. So the living entities, Prabhupada says, they come to this material world to fulfill their desires. Now, if we have come here to fulfill the desires, we should understand we have come to a material world which is a place of misery, which means our desires were not right, which means our desires were against the spiritual path. And if we continue to go around in this cycle of desires and desires and desires, then we will continue in this cycle of birth and death. So we have to be very mindful of our desires. It's very, very important, because if we are trying to enjoy in this material world independent of Krishna, then Prabhupada says that is very, very dangerous. So Here, there is talk about Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is talking about Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan realization, these three aspects. So now, if we can somehow or the other understand that the super soul, which is there in the heart, which is the Paramatma, is not on the same level as the living. In other words, living entities are not on the same level as the super soul. Living entities are way below. They are parts of the Supreme Lord. And finally, Prabhupada describes about Brahman realization. He says that the impersonal Brahman, which is the effulgence of the Supreme Lord, the living entities rest in trance in the impersonal Brahman. That, of course, we've already learned in Srimad Bhagavatam, so I won't repeat. But very important part of this purport of verse number 10 is that when there is sincerity, Krishna helps. But that sincerity can fructify only when there is austerity. Only when one performs austerities, then one becomes Krishna conscious. Right now, we are self conscious, like we are. I, me, and my consciousness. So it's not a very cheap word, Krishna consciousness. It's a very heavy, very important spiritual word, Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada says that we think, he keeps talking about becoming Krishna conscious. Yes, it should be such that when we are on the path of Krishna consciousness, we not only become conscious of Krishna, but we come to a state, to a platform where Krishna becomes conscious of us. That is the important part. So that entails a lot of austerity of the mind, which is self-control, controlling the senses, being satisfied, being grave. Then austerity of the body, which is like fasting on Ekadashi or important festival days, cleanliness in and out, and of course, leading a simple life, simple living, high thinking. And then, of course, most important is austerity of the speech, which means our words should be honest. More important, they should be pleasing. More important, that they should not agitate the minds of other people, right? And we should regularly recite the Vedic scriptures. Why does Guru Maharaj always say, read Prabhupada books 2 hours every day? Hear Srimad Bhagavatam every day. Hear Bhagavad Gita every day. Read Bhagavad Gita every day, right? Because it is important, and that is an austerity. It's not easy to sit in one place and read for 2 hours. It's not easy. Yes, it is difficult because it's an austerity, and this austerity will help us progress in Krishna consciousness. Um, I would say the bottom line is that whatever we are doing, whatever endeavors, that we, um, take on or do or whatever it is basically we want to be happy. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone wants to be loved. I i i mentioned this in the Bhagavad Gita class on Wednesday, but I will also talk about it today. That someone gave me a very nice calendar which is called Let Love Surround You, and this has nice quotes which is talking about love and happiness. So I'd like to read that. It says, good things take time. Life is beautiful. Never stop dreaming. Be in love with every moment. Dreams do come true. Create your opportunity. Do more of what makes you happy. Make today amazing. Let life surprise you. Let love surround you. And finally, follow your dreams. Now, there's one more: enjoy the journey. Now, these are beautiful little quotes that can make someone feel happy and loved, but that is only short lived. Whereas Srila Prabhupada has given us the whole process by which we can be eternally happy, where our dream will be to go back to Godhead, where our consciousness will be only how to love and worship Krishna. Because once we start loving Krishna, automatically we will feel the love ourselves. So just like now with COVID-19, some people, I would say, or most people are wearing a mask, to protect themselves. They want to protect their body. Of course, most people don't have the knowledge that I am not this body, but that doesn't mean we don't protect it. Yes, we do protect it. But I was listening to a lecture from Juhu, Mumbai recently, where Bhima Prabhu was talking about we need a spiritual mask, not just a material mask. We also need a spiritual mask. And it's not just a mask, just like everyone wants the vaccine uh, for COVID 19. So also we need vaccine of Krishna consciousness. Now, what is that spiritual mask? That spiritual mask is actually, I don't think anyone enjoys wearing a mask. I know when I go out wearing a mask and say for grocery or whatever, as soon as I enter my car, the first thing is to remove the mask because it is very uncomfortable. It's hard to breathe, and it is, you start sweating near your nose and mouth and all. So the first thing is remove the mask, right? So we are using that mask to protect ourselves from the virus, right? Similarly, we should have a spiritual mask, which means that we should protect ourselves from the what you can say, from the mm, from I forgot the word. We should try and protect ourselves so that, first of all, not to speak unnecessarily. So the mouth is covered, right? So the spiritual mask means mouth is covered. That means we only speak honestly, pleasingly, in a very sweet way, so that others are not agitated. And we also recite the Vedas, right? That is the austerity of the mouth. So that spiritual mask is very important. Then what will happen? The Maya is not going to enter into us. We will be protected by that spiritual mask. And what is a vaccine? I had long time ago, I had heard that if we give this knowledge to others, we if we distribute the books of Srila Prabhupada to others, and when we talk to them, we are actually injecting them with Krishna consciousness. We are helping them to start becoming conscious of themselves as a spirit soul, and conscious also of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, this is how we can, protect ourselves and even help others. That is also very, very important. It's not that we are saved now, so we relax and we say, okay, I am saved, that's it. No, we need to save others also, and this is what pleases Guru Maharaj, pleases Srila Prabhupada, and it pleases Krishna also. So I'm going to end here. If anyone has any questions.